Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. It's me, T.Mayne, back again with you guys for another awesome weekly market forecast. Now, guys, today's one is going to be absolutely exciting. We're going to get into 6 different pairs today. So we're going to go through the DXY, AussieCAD, AussieJPY, CHFJPY, Nzdcad, and Nzdjpy. Now, today's pairs are a little bit exciting, guys. We're going to be building such a nice overview of the market. All of the different individual stories that we are finding from these 6 pairs that we're going to have a look at are going to give us such a nice rounded view of what the market is currently doing. So let's get into our analysis, guys. We'll start off with the DXY and we'll get on to our 4-hour time frame. Now, to mention a thing about the 4-hour time frame, guys, you guys probably noticed that I primarily use the 4-hour for my analysis. I've found literally a lot of probabilities on the 4-hour chart trading that 4-hour structure. So a lot of my decisions are primarily off what I can see on the 4-hour time frame. So guys, talking about relevant price action, as much price action that you can squeeze onto the 4-hour when you're looking at the 4-hour, the most amount of price action that you can see on your chart on the 4-hour is, I guess, all the relevant information that you really need to be focused on. So that's exactly what we're going to do on the DXY today. On the 4-hour, we have our important support structures. Down here, we can see we had a set of lows. Price came back to retest, creating higher lows, but nonetheless still reacting from this area towards the upside. We also have this resistance area here where we see this push to the downside that then violated a lot of support structures on the way down. So we clearly see that this market has or is trapped within some sort of a range. We have important lower structures being respected. We also have recent resistance where we see some sellers coming in from. So what we can see about our most recent price action is still this important swap area. So we'll get that horizontal tool and mark out this support structure over here. We still have this important swap area where the markets first found some support in and around this area with this reaction here. Then we see market finding some resistance, and then later on we see the market impulsively breaking above this structure and then finding support once again. After we come back and retest the support area and push to the upside, what can we notice about the price action that we then see? We then begin to isolate obviously our higher structures and our lower structures, and what we have here on the 4-hour is this beautiful ascending structure on the dollar index. Now we know that ascending structures normally break to the downside. We also have the confluence of this higher time frame resistance structure. So what we're expecting on the dollar index, guys, for next week is to see some dollar weakness, at least until those support structures down there. So how we'll be tackling the dollar index, guys, is because we've seen a beautiful double top structure on our 4-hour, what we'll be waiting for is for some weakness to follow through, guys. We need to see a follow through of that weakness. So we do have some important support structures there on the 1-hour chart, which I think we'll go into right now. We do have some important support structures there. We'll just wait for our charts to load, guys. But that important support structure can function for us as resistance. So on those lower time frames, like we're going down onto the H1, guys, we're going to be able to still isolate an area where we can find those potential trades. So now that we're on the H1, guys, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be isolating some structure to identify what is happening on the H1 chart. We've had our double top structure. We understand from a higher time frame perspective that we can still push up to give us this final touch of our structure. We do also understand that this area is our optimal selling area. That's where we want to optimally sell from. But as structure's developing, guys, we need to adjust and adapt with structure and observe what's happening on those time frames. So we can already see a corrective break of structure in that support structure over there. So we won't add this support structure. But what we can notice about resistance is that there is a consistent resistance trend line. There is a resistance trend line that is being respected. So we'll accommodate for just the 2 most recent higher structures there. So what we can see on the H1, guys, is a structure that develops that allows us to then take this trade in this optimal setup. So what we'll be looking for on the dollar index is for prices to give us a nice beautiful structure that we can isolate, that will allow us to take this amazing dollar weakness all the way, guys, to the 90% rule of this structure, which will also be our important swap area, which obviously we want to manage our trade accordingly and manage our trade by. So we're expecting, guys, that short-term dollar weakness until these support areas, guys. Once prices get here, we'll be paying attention to the usual two things: how prices make the descent to the support structure and what prices do at this area. Those two pieces of information, guys, will allow us to reevaluate our analysis. But as of now, we're still bearish bias on the DXY, expecting some nice follow through on some dollar weakness. So let's go through to the next pair, guys, and that's Aussie CAD. We'll start off with Aussie CAD on the 4-hour chart. What we're going to do on the 4-hour, just like we were doing on our dollar index, is we're going to use this 4-hour, identify these important key structural areas, and then obviously look to trade off these key higher time frame structural areas. Awesome, guys. Now that our chart has loaded, we're here on Aussie CAD, guys, on the 4-hour, and we're looking at our structure. So what we can see on the 4-hour, guys, is I do have a nice important support structure over there in the past that we have seen a nice bullish reaction from. So markets kind of bouncing off this support structure over here, introducing a whole lot of buyers from that structural area. Now, what we've identified about our most recent price action, guys, is this market that has been decelerating towards this important support structure. What we've seen is lower structures being established, then being taken out, new lower structures being established, being taken out. Being taken out, guys, nice and impulsively. So nice, impulsive downside momentum. And at this point, guys, we should be looking to trade the momentum, looking to trade those shorting opportunities. But because of the nature of this descending structure, guys, in this case on Aussie CAD, what I'm going to do for myself is open myself to those buying opportunities. So, guys, the way I'm looking at Aussie CAD now is that we could either still be within this either accumulation or either distribution. And if this is an accumulation, guys, we are still at the low of the range, and at the low of the range exists those buying probabilities. Now, what I'm going to do, guys, going forward on Aussie CAD is look for those reversal structures. So simply look for price action to give me reasons to involve myself in buying opportunities. What I want to see is lower structures being formed, lower structures then being taken out. What I want to see is sellers failing to push prices down and then higher structures being violated. And finally, what I need is for these previous higher structures to be respected and to give me that trading opportunity in the direction that I'm looking to take. So, guys, on Aussie CAD, what we're going to look for is we're going to open ourselves up to those bullish trading opportunities. But what we're going to wait for is for the market to give us those entries, to give us structure that aligns and that supports the directional bias that we're choosing to hold on Aussie CAD, because we have seen some impulsive momentum to the downside. And obviously, if price does change structure and then begin to form those ascending structures, we will adapt our bias, change our bias according to the market structure, identify our impulsive phase, and then identify this new corrective structure that has been formed, and we'll change direction. So until that happens, guys, we're still with the relevant information that is on our charts, keeping only what's necessary and obviously not going too far into this bias. What's on our chart, guys, we are still at support, we are still down low, and I'm still going to open myself up to those buying opportunities. Now, me being me, guys, you know that I do tell you guys exactly what I'm looking for and how I'm looking for these things in the course of the week. So you will see how I am going to hedge this Aussie CAD position. Now, we'll go on to the next pair that we're going to have a look at, and that is AJ. We'll stay on the 4-hour for now on AJ, and we'll discuss what we're looking for. So, guys, on AUDJPY, what we're seeing here is obviously a market that has been descending, making that lower structure, lower lows and lower highs nice and consistently. But every single time we see these lower structures being violated to the downside, we see prices breaking and closing back above. We see now a violation of this support structure over here, and we see prices breaking and closing back above this higher structure, this higher time frame structure. So how we are going to approach, guys, AUDJPY is we're going to pay attention to how prices are violating structure. We spoke about this important support structure over here, and what we can see, prices violated this structure to the downside nice and impulsively, and as we're coming back into this structure, pay attention to the price action. We are correcting towards structural resistance. So guys, as much as we want to align ourselves in the direction of buys at this point on AUDJPY, structure is warranting us to begin to start looking for those selling opportunities. What the fuck? So what we're going to do next is isolate that structure, drop down onto our H1 and observe the nature of the structure that we've isolated. So we have this ascending structure, obviously just taking into account just our most recent higher structures and our most recent lower structures. Now what we can see about this structure is that it is approaching a previous area where we've seen some sellers coming into the market. So we've seen resistance, we've seen supply coming into the market at these areas before, and right now price is ascending towards the structural area. So guys, what we're going to be looking for next week on AUDJPY is for a completion of this structure. We're going to be looking at these higher structures over here. Let's just get a horizontal ray, mark that out, guys. We're going to be looking at those resistance structures over there, waiting for those resistance structures to be taken out by the market, and then waiting for our reversal structures to begin to form from this support, from this resistance structure. Once we see that kind of a setup, guys, we're only looking to ride this trade towards the 90% rule of our structure, because higher time frame on the 4 hour, what we're going to mention now is our long-term outlook on AUDJPY. Our long-term outlook, we've seen prices violating our descending structure to the downside. What we've also seen is prices breaking back inside of our structure. So we're still anticipating that if prices do make a move to the downside, we can still see a long-term buying opportunity. Why? Because we might have some relevant structure, a nice 3-touch structure maybe, and we're seeing prices violating our support trend line and breaking back above. So we can expect prices to still come back, respect our support trend line, and continue the momentum to the upside, giving us a longer term buying opportunity, maybe to take out these highs, maybe even to attack these highs up there. Guys, there is still the potential for us to find some bullish momentum on AUDJPY, and you guys are going to see how amazing our New Zealand dollar trade setup is going to be looking, guys. We're going to do some beautiful top-down analysis from scratch, no analysis on the chart when we get to NZDJPY, because that price action deserves the time for us to actually go into it. It's that beautiful, guys. Now let's go on to the next pair that we're going to have a look at, and that is our Chfjpy. Now we're going to stick on the 4 hour Swiss franc yen trade, and what we're going to observe, guys, is still the same higher time frame momentum that we are seeing to the downside. We still have our support structures that have been violated that we have not seen a retest of, but what we have additionally is this descending structure over here. What we've seen within this descending structure is support structures being taken out once, prices breaking back above, support structures being taken out a second time, prices breaking back above. Now, amazing for those buying opportunities. Now, higher time frame, guys, we're still going to align ourselves on the bullish side of things, waiting for prices to come and tap into some important areas where we've seen a reaction from before, and then complete at this resistance. So previous support now functioning as resistance. We want to see price taking out these two higher structures over there. Once we see this type of a setup, guys, we then begin to align ourselves on the sell side of things, expecting that higher time frame sell side momentum. So as things stand right now, the go-to setup for us of next week, guys, will be to first of all highlight these lower structures over here, and then obviously anticipate these lower structures to be violated, and then for prices to give us that trading setup to the upside. So this is the amazing bullish setup, guys, that we're going to be looking for on CHFJPY next week. We're still looking for that upside on CHFJPY, waiting for prices to come and tap into our higher time frame resistance areas, where we'll begin to align ourselves on the sell side of things. So for Swiss yen, guys, see how we're bullish as things stand. On AUDJPY, guys, we're looking for that sell side momentum. So if you think about what we're doing with these JPY quote pairs, is we're hedging. So on AUDJPY, if we see some JPY strength, meaning AUDJPY goes to the downside, that's the pair that we'll be selling. If we see JPY weakness, meaning JPY quote pairs go to the upside, this is the pair that we will be buying. Why? Because we are trading the relevant structure that we see on our charts, and then we're also allowing ourselves to align ourselves in different directions to be able to still make money from our position. Because remember, the pairs that we're looking at, like I tell you guys every single week, are a portfolio of pairs. This portfolio that we are trading over the course of next week should make us money. We're not expecting money from one specific asset. We're expecting money from our total trading portfolio. That allows us, I guess, to also manage risk within our portfolio, not buy all of these JPY quote pairs. So isolate the higher probability buy and only take that one. So onto Nzdcad, guys, we're on the 4 hour. What we'll say about our higher time frame structure is that we've seen prices obviously being in this higher time frame downtrend, support, resistance, new lower structures. What we can identify about prices violating these lower structures over here is we've violated them in a nice corrective manner. So prices have been playing around those support structures over there. What we've noticed in our most recent price action is that prices are within some sort of a range. So we've seen prices coming in over there from these resistance areas, then starting to create structure within these major resistance and major support structures. So we understand that we are in a range. Selling probabilities come from the high of the range, buying probabilities come from the low. Now, if we pay attention to the most recent price action, guys, on the 4 hour, what we will see is a nice obvious uptrend. So support, resistance, support, resistance, support, resistance. Now, obviously, we're seeing prices violating structure to the downside. If we look at things from a daily perspective, this is what's going to give us our directional bias. So we're seeing on a daily resistance highs. We're seeing prices violating, breaking and closing above those highs nice and impulsively. We're then seeing rejections from these previous resistance areas, bearish engulfing candlestick, prices closing back below this resistance area. So because of that, guys, we're seeing some sell sensitivity from a higher time frame perspective. And like we spoke about the previous two pairs, the way we are hedging is because if we look at the structure on AUDCAD, guys, we're looking for those bullish bias setups. If we think about AUDCAD has impulsively moved to the downside, broke back above structure, and we're waiting for those bullish continuation setups. Now, Nzdcad, on the other hand, has done, I guess, sort of the opposite. We've seen prices breaking that resistance area, breaking and closing back below nice and impulsively. And so because of what we are seeing here on these different time frames, on these different pairs that are correlated because they share the CAD as a quote pair, we're going to align ourselves in different directions. So if we see CAD strength obviously sending these pairs to the downside, guys, we will be looking to sell NZDJPY. And if we see CAD weakness sending these CAD quote pairs to the upside, the pair that we will be looking to buy is AUDCAD. Now, hopping down on the H4, guys, what we will see is obviously the higher time frame structure that we've spoken about before, prices breaking and closing back below these lower structures. So a go-to setup for us would be to see these higher structures that have been formed on the H4, guys, being taken out one more time, and then we begin to look for our reversal setup. That kind of a setup, guys, will be a beautiful trade for us. Or one of the other things, guys, is if we just see prices coming, trying to create higher structures, and then obviously failing, giving us that double top structure. Nonetheless, still a beautiful sell position where we are looking to take this trade is to these support structures here. Why to those support structures there? Because first of all, speaking about structure, so here we're looking for relevant structure to give us reason to enter. Speaking about structure, guys, these are the previous support structures that we do see lower structures being formed. So this uptrend that is on the H4, guys, is being held by these support structures here. So prices can easily come into the support structure and remain bullish. So we want to manage our trade full 1:3 risk to reward ratio trade within this resistance and within these support structures down there. So on Nzdcad, we're aligning ourselves on the sell side of things. Just in case that CAD strength comes in, we're still going to be able to make money from that CAD strength. If that CAD weakness comes in, AUDJPY is gonna bless us good. Now guys, we're getting into the last pair that we are going to have a look at, and that is NZDJPY. This amazing pair, guys, needs us to start off on the daily. Now that we're on the daily, guys, let's begin to break structure down. So what we are seeing on the daily chart, guys, is some support. Then prices come up, we create this resistance, and now we're seeing prices coming and approaching the support structure here. If we just slap on a horizontal ray at these support structures, what we will see is prices from a daily perspective failing to break and close below those structural areas. So we are seeing nice bullish reaction from higher time frame support structures. If we look at the lows within this structure here, what we will identify is lower structures being violated and prices obviously breaking and closing back above those lower structures. So continuously we are seeing these lows being formed, and then once again these new lows being formed and prices breaking and closing back above these previous lower structures there. So what we're doing is we're going to focus on the most recent price action. So most recent price action, guys, on the daily, what we can observe is important resistance up here, prices coming down, establishing support, coming up, establishing resistance, coming down, lower low, and now we're seeing prices approaching resistance. That's the important thing. So higher time frame, we understand we have important resistance in these areas here. Where's our box? Let's just get our box over there. We have some important resistance in this area here. We also have nice important support that prices violated to the downside and broke back above. Let's just get this horizontal box, this rectangle. There we go. Now we have some perspective. On the H4, what we can see is the potential for prices to give us this beautiful inverse head and shoulders for that long-term JPY buy. So this is an amazing top-down analysis, guys. We are seeing this inverse head and shoulder structure beginning to form higher time frame. Now what we can see about our most recent price action is that we are approaching resistance. We need to be on those lower time frames observing how price is approaching those resistance structures. Now what we will see is obviously prices giving a nice impulsive move to the upside, beautiful impulsive move to the upside, pushing away from our important support structures there, and then we are seeing corrective price action. So higher structures, prices breaking and closing above. Corrective price action to the upside. So guys, on the H1 and on the H4, what we will be observing is we will be taking into account at this point in time our important resistance areas. What we will be doing with our support is we're going to wait for structure to give us some nice support, because remember, we don't need that support structures in there. We don't really need it. We're looking to sell. What's important to us as sellers? Resistance. So for those support structures, all we're going to do is wait for structure to develop, give us that support, and then allow us to take a beautiful sell setup in those structural areas after we've seen and been been able to isolate the necessary ascending structure. Now, a beautiful sell setup that might form here on NZDJPY. And guys, this setup is going to require just a little bit of patience from us. If you want to be, I guess, aggressive in selling these JPY quote pairs, we've done the analysis on AUDJPY. Remember, we're looking for a sell setup on AUDJPY as well. That sell setup is a lot more closer to developing than this setup. If we see both AUDJPY, both NZDJPY making a move to the upside, we'll wait to take this beautiful setup at our resistance areas. Now guys, now that we know that we are currently focused on those selling opportunities, what is next for us? If this sell momentum comes in and we maybe don't enter in on the position, what's next is the completion of this inverse head and shoulders structure. So higher time frame, longer, a much longer view, far away from now guys, we're going to be looking for those bullish trades. For right now, we're looking for the sell side momentum to give us that right shoulder. Once we have that right shoulder, guys, we're looking for the long-term bullish momentum. So higher structure, we can see, like we spoke about, guys, prices being in this descending structure, so correctively have been descending to the downside, obviously violating that lower structure. Now that we know that price has been descending towards important support structural areas, we can expect, guys, some higher time frame bullishness, and we might see maybe even these highs being taken out here on AUDJPY, on NZDJPY. So we're anticipating that higher time frame bullish momentum just by looking at how prices are treating the current structure that we have on the chart. Also in the process, being able to find beautiful trading opportunities as price is developing, regardless of whether or not price respects our forecast or analysis. The market is gifting us, guys, with the opportunity of being involved with these pairs, following through with these pairs every single week, and learning from the price action that the pairs give us. And experiential learning, guys, is the best kind of learning. It's the best kind of, I guess, place that you can kind of develop your winning system from. You develop your system, you change things, you tweak things, you make things better for you, you make things work from that experiential knowledge, guys. Now that we've done with the analysis, thanks so much for watching, guys, for being with me until the end of this video. If you have received the value that was intended for you, definitely drop this video a like. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what other concepts, what other videos you would like to see on the channel. It will be amazing. It will be helpful. Give us some content, guys, to create valuable stuff. Let us know what you want to see, not what we think is right for you. Now that we've done with that, guys, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Otherwise, appreciate you for watching till the end. This is T.Mayne, your FX Chasers mentor. I will see you guys in the future videos. Have a good week, guys. Cheers.